right. All right. Oh, there I am. Hello, everyone. Okay, so let me get over here to the comments, make sure I'm looking at the right one. All right, so as we say, I'm going to let this. I'm going to grab one of my first documents here. Not that one. This one looks good. This one, okay, and then that's just okay, perfect. Here we go. So let me get back over to here, and we shall begin. All right. So here's the deal. We are now changing the format of this Tuesday session, YouTube live session, to be no longer the top three. It's now Multifamily Law School. I thought, you know what? I'm a lawyer, and legally speaking, I can answer a lot of these questions regarding stuff that comes up on multifamily transactions. So I am actually going to tell one of my students who calls me whenever I start this thing. I'm going to have a different topic every week, and if you have anything you want me to talk about, have any situation going on, and you want me to discuss it with you on air live, I would love that. That'd be so much fun. I have a lot of material to go over in time because this is a I mean, I've been doing this for 20 years now, so I know multifamily transactions inside and out. So here's what we're going to do. Tonight's topic is going to be on letters of intent. So I'm going to tell you how letters of intent work. I'm going to give you the real background so you feel very comfortable doing it. First off, letters of intent don't cost anything. Just make sure you don't make them binding. They're typically non-binding letters of intent. So listen, when in doubt, just make an offer. Nothing bad ever happens when somebody makes an offer. Only good things happen. The broker gets another offer in and shows the seller that his marketing efforts are working, and the broker gets in a ridiculously low offer, and he's able to go to the seller and say, hey, you're going to have to drop your price because I'm not having anybody come close to what you're asking for. And no matter what happens, it works out well for the broker, and therefore you move up the food chain because now you're one of those sellers or buyers that actually is is worth their weight. They actually do something. They bring value to the table. You're not a tire kicker. You actually make offers. All right. So when in doubt, make an offer. Now, what is an offer? An offer is just like that same thing that you did to that little girl in third grade, or you were that little girl in third grade who was the recipient of that little love note that said, I like you. Do you like me? Check yes or no. That's all an LOI is. It's to find out if the two parties like the price and the terms and are willing to move forward with their relationship. So it's really not that big of a deal. But what I'm going to talk to you about today are the elements of a letter of intent and also 4 types of letters of intent. Yes, not all letters of intent are created equally. You've got to make sure that you choose the right one, because here's why, and this is where we're getting into the law school stuff. Whatever you put into that letter of intent that gets agreed upon must then move from the LOI to the contract. If it doesn't make the trip, it's not going for a ride. So if it doesn't get inside the 4 corners of that purchase and sale agreement, it's gone. So if you ask for seller financing in the letter of intent, and then you conveniently forget to add it to the purchase and sale agreement, don't come back looking for it later. Ain't going to happen. Now, on the flip side, if you didn't ask for something in the letter of intent, and then you tried to slip it in on the purchase and sale contract, that's poor form. That's poor form. You look like a rookie. So make sure that when you make the offer, you put in all the terms you want, and they all get moved over. Don't play Mickey Mouse games with the seller. Like, oh, I'm going to try to pull a fast one on him because I'm going to stick in there that he's going to give me $5,000 at closing. That doesn't work that way. Just don't do it. Okay, let's take a look at the first one. And I'm going to figure out how to do this. Share my screen. What the heck? Window? Here we go. All right, let's see if it's this one. Let's see. Yeah, this one. All right, so this is what I call my short form letter of intent. It's very simple. It's just 2 pages. It's just 8 paragraphs. You can bang these things out in no time flat. So why do we have a letter of intent in the first place? Let me jump back to that. That might be kind of important. The reason why we have it is to save legal fees. You can go right to contract, and most brokers want you to go straight to contract. But if you decide, hey, I'm not ready to go start paying legal fees to an attorney to draft my purchase and sale agreement, I want to make sure that we agree on the basics before I go down that path. All right, so that's why we do letters of intent. But like you'll hear brokers say, oh, you like the property? Why don't we go straight to contract? Well, that means you're skipping over the dance and you're going right to the wedding. And weddings cost a lot of money. And you might find out when you get before you even get to the wedding that you don't like the girl. And therefore, you just wasted all this time. That's why we do a letter of intent, okay, to figure it out. Now, this type right here, remember what I said in the beginning. When in doubt, just make an offer because it really doesn't cost you anything. And look how easy it is. So the first thing you're going to do, obviously, is state what this is. And it's a letter of intent. And you want to identify the property that we're talking about. Remember, folks, it's a letter. It's a letter. So write it like it's a letter. Put your letterhead up at the top. Put the recipient's name right here. Don't forget the date. And then spell it out to him. Dear Mr. Gossel. All right? That's why we call it a letter of intent. Whatever you do, do not put up here in the header, like some people do, letter of intent. No, that's not what you do up there. You state the purpose of the letter of the letter right there. It's a letter of intent. All right. Now you're going to see a couple different versions of mine. So here we always have the purchase price. And if you ask for any seller financing, this is where you're first going to see it. You'll add a paragraph later on to give the terms of the purchase of the seller financing, but you put it in right here. Spell it all out. Purchase agreement. We have X number of days for the 2 parties to come to a real agreement. This one's not a real agreement. This is not a contract. This is a I like you, you like me type of contract. All right. Earnest money deposit. Make sure, I see so many people, use these things as templates and they put one number up here and then they put a different number down here. Make sure you read your contracts, okay? Then we talk about the inspection period. The effective date should be the date at which the purchaser has received all documents listed in Schedule 1. Now, note that one, folks. I do this in all of my contracts, and I've learned this the hard way. We can start the effective date. We can start the clock ticking on this contract the day you give me all the documents that we've agreed to. Because I've seen these guys wait. Now you're supposed to have a 30-day period right here, but you haven't even received all the documents yet because the seller is sitting on them. We actually went to court on one case because of this particular matter. So why set the clock ticking before you even get all your documents? So we make the seller have to do some work in order to get this contract off the ground. Because if you see over here, let me see the earnest. I'm trying to find my cursor. A refundable earnest money deposit in the amount of $105 will be deposited with the escrow agent within 3 business days after the effective date. And what is the effective date? The effective date should be the date on which a purchaser has received all documents. So you could be sitting around for 30 days and never have to stroke a check for the earnest money. because the guy has never given you all the documents. Okay. Now you might be thinking to yourself, Charlie, well, what documents are they? Well, look at, we name them right here in Schedule 1. So what does that tell you? Schedule 1 right here. If you scroll down, boom, what do you see there? Schedule 1. Property tax statements, license and permits, all these things. In other words, we tell, and this is the most important right here. You always want to make sure that you have this one right here. Copies of last 12 months of bank statements. Because remember, what we're doing in the due diligence portion under the financial due diligence is we're recreating the financials of this property using third-party documents like a bank statement. So the bank statement will clearly show how much money has come into the bank account. That number should pretty much darn match up with your trailing 12 financial statement. And if it doesn't, that guy had better be able to explain it. But as you can see here, on the very, very first correspondence, we give this guy all the documents we need in order to make this happen. Okay, so we can't say, well, I didn't know you wanted that. I'll tell you, here's a little red flag. If you send this offer over and the guy signs off on it and doesn't change anything back here, he didn't read it. And you're going to have a problem with the closing or doing the due diligence because the guy's not giving it to you. All right. Then we got the closing date right here. Remember, one thing that you will not see in any of my letters of intent are dates certain. We're going to do the closing date on December 31st. Yeah, well, it took us 3 months to negotiate this contract. So guess what? December 31st is only 2 weeks away. That's why you always see like 90 days from a particular period. All right. That makes sure that the contract is moving along smoothly and nobody's going to get burnt by any short time periods. And then we also add a financing period. Now, you don't always offer a financing period. Remember, as I teach, the multifamily real estate business is a business. It's a competitive environment. You have to sell your offer so that the buyer will buy it. So what you want to do, especially if you're in competition, you want to make sure that the terms of your offer are good ones and that you don't put in Mickey Mouse things so that the seller looks at it and says, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. I'm not going to agree to those terms. I'm not going to accept that offer. So if you want to strengthen your offer, you take things out like a financing contingency. That a financing contingency weakens your offer. So how do you fix it? Well, maybe just extend the inspection period. Maybe try doing it that way. So that is okay. So that is the that's how that works on the short form letter of intent. I got 3 more to show you. All right, here we go. Boom. Here, let me find it. I'm going to find. Oh, I have to go through this way. That's right. I'm on StreamYard. Share screen window, and this time I'm going to go to. Maybe it's this one. Let's see. Yes. Okay. So this is what I call my long form letter of intent. Takes a little bit longer, but here's the reason why you have 2 different types. Remember, the short form takes no time at all. You can send it out there. And then if the guy agrees with it, then what happens is you have to sit down and start negotiating the terms. Well, that's going to take time. And maybe you need time. Maybe you need time to put together the earnest money deposit. Maybe you need time putting together your team. So if you're needing more time, go with the short form LOI. But if you want to bind up that property as fast as you possibly can, you want to go with the long form, because the difference between the two is that the long form includes many more topics that are going to be in the purchase and sale agreement. So you're getting them all agreed to and out of the way up front. That's going to make your lawyer's job very easy when he's going to draft the purchase and sale contract. All right. So look, let me run through some of them. As you can see, first page is pretty much all the same. Second page, we start getting into the title insurance. Now, during the due diligence process, when I teach due diligence, I teach people that there are 3 phases to the due diligence: legal, financial, and physical. And when you see title insurance or title company, now we're talking about the legal due diligence component. So as you can see here, the title company will be chosen by the purchaser. We get to choose the insurance company. That's the way I write it because I've been burnt and I'm not going to get burned again. I don't want my clients to get burnt. Then here's all the talk about the title insurance. Here's all the talk about the survey, environmental review, right of entry, closing costs, prorations, financing period contingency, sales commissions, removal from the market, confidentiality. All of these things are laid out in the long form LOI. You didn't see those things in the short form LOI. They were all in the long form. That's why you'll move very quickly through the purchase and sale phase if you use the long form letter of intent. So be ready. Okay. There's a document all over again with the list of all of the things that the seller wants. And that's why we have the long form LOI. Now, what else do we do here? What's another example of a unique type of a purchase in the multifamily world that we would need a different term for? I don't know. Maybe. Hold on. Let me find it. Maybe. How about this one? How about a master lease option? You ever write an offer on a master lease option? Yeah, well, you're going to need a different letter of intent template for that one because there are different terms in there that you need to talk about. Okay, so take a look at this one. What do we have differently in here that wasn't in the short form or the long form letter of intent? Well, here you have, look at, I like this. This letter substitutes the purchase and sale agreement dated October 7th and will be a binding letter of intent on the owner of record. All right, let's talk about those terms. Let's talk about it. Okay, substitutes the original purchase and sale agreement. All right, now why would we need to do that? Well, the reason why we need to do that is because the reason why we're going with this is because this property's got problems and we can't get it financed and the seller just wants out and we want to buy it, but we cannot buy it now under this situation. So you always leave the master lease option out as a tool in your toolbox when other things don't work. And so in this particular case, a purchase and sale was not going to go through, but my client wanted to control that property. So we offered a master lease option. And basically what we said is, hey, forget that purchase and sale agreement. That's no longer involved. Now we're dealing with a master lease option. And then we serve as a binding letter. So, you have binding, non-binding. So, why would we want to make it binding? Because we want this to go through. We still get to do the due diligence and everything, but we want this to be binding. He can't go outside and do anything else. So let me just run through a couple of these things. The term of the master lease option, that is a very important thing. This term of this agreement will be for 24 months with a 12-month extension. So this option, this master lease is actually a 36-month lease. Trust me, folks, don't ever do a 12-month master lease option. You just don't have the time to turn that property around and get it performing. 3 years is the basic one. And look at what they say. Exercisable in the sole discretion of the master tenant. All right, master tenant purchase shall pay to the seller the lesser of $10,000 or 25% of the net operating income within 30 days following the end of a month. So how much do I have to pay as my lease for my master lease? There, it is spelled out right there. And of course, you have to be given the right to be able to sublet the property because that's what you're doing. You're subletting the property to other people. Master tenant. Now, what does the master leaseholder have to pay for out of that money? He's going to pay the management fees and any repairs and maintenance. So you always have to spell out who pays what in the master lease. Up here, management is going to be me. Option price, because remember, what you're doing is you're creating two separate contracts. You're creating a master lease / option contract. So we have to figure out, well, what am I buying and how much am I going to pay and how long does this option last? And as you can see, the term of the option is coterminous with the term of the master lease. So if you don't do it within a certain period of time, if you don't do one within the certain period of time, you're not going to do the other. So this is gives you. I'm not going to keep going through this because it could get a little hairy. But I just want you all to see how that works. Now, the final one. Okay, now, folks, this is so crucial, and you don't want to get yourself caught in this way. And you're seeing more and more of this because the interest rates are so high. You're seeing a lot of deals being done via an assumption. All right. Now, when you're dealing with an assumption, you're going to add additional terms to the offer to protect yourself. Let me show you exactly what I mean. Share screen, window, and here we go. All right. Now, I want you to understand that the reasons why we have these terms in here is because somebody got burnt. All right. I can tell you that somebody was me. Okay, let's see here. Receiving terms. Okay, the financing period. Is this the one I want? Yeah. So the financing period, you think, well, I'm doing an assumption. So shouldn't, why do I have to go to a bank? Well, I already know who the bank is. Yeah, you still have to be approved for the assumption. Should be subject to purchase or receiving financing terms and conditions acceptable to purchaser within 15 days after the end of the inspection period. Okay? Listen, I don't care what the banks say that they are not allowed to change any of the economic terms on the mortgage for an assumption. That's bull. It's a bank. A bank will do whatever the bank damn well pleases. Okay? So what we have to show you is the first thing we add into an assumption is we talk about the closing costs. You see, the problem is that you're stuck. You're stuck with the seller's bank, the seller's and bank's attorney. And you've got your own attorney, but then they go back out to Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac or whoever the GSE is. And that bank charges whatever they want. I got hit with a $50,000 legal fee on a closing cost for an assumption. Every attorney that didn't collect the $50,000 was outraged. Did it matter? No. I had to pay the $50,000. So I've started putting this provision into all my contracts so that we know the purchaser's closing costs are going to be limited to X. If you're putting me through this rigmarole, because remember, folks, always understand this. When you're doing an assumption, you're actually doing a huge favor to the seller. Don't think that he's doing you a favor. You're doing him a favor. He can't sell that property unless he finds a buyer who's going to agree to work with that bank. You might have a great relationship with another bank. Doesn't matter. You got to buy this one. So in this particular case, we always limited the closing costs on the contract to a low figure. And anything over that, the seller's going to pay. All right, that's number one. Now, let's take a look at the next one. Oh, I'm going to jump over this computer. Capital reserve account. Oh, folks, listen. Bet you didn't know this. So I had a deal I was doing. It was an assumption, and the seller had been reserving his reserve replacement for years and had never once touched it. Didn't put a dime into the property. That reserve account had $100,000 in it. So what happens at the closing table after I just raised $1 million from my friends and family? And now I'm going to the closing table and I'm all set to close. And the bank sits there, the seller's there, I'm there. And the bank cuts a check for the $100,000 and hands it to the seller and says, "Congratulations, you sold the property. Good for you. It's been a pleasure doing business with you, Mr. Seller. Have a nice day." And the seller gets up, says his goodbyes, and takes his sale proceeds along with the $100,000 reserve replacement. And then the bank turns to me and says, welcome aboard, our newest customer. Let's get started. Now, the first thing we have to deal with is this little shortfall that you have in your reserve account. What do you mean shortfall? Oh, yeah, you owe us $100,000. No, I don't. You just cut him a check and he walked away with it. You never should have done that. Well, that's his money. Well, okay, but I get the opportunity to build up my account. Oh, no. That 100,000 is reserved to protect our collateral, and it's gone, and we need it back. So you have to come up with $100,000 right now, or we're not closing. I just raised $1 million with all my friends and family. Well, better go tap them on the shoulder, because that's how it's going to work. So you had to go out and find another $100,000. I had to find it in 3 days to close on a deal. It was tough. And I swore I would never get myself in that situation again. And so now I say in all of my contracts that if the seller has any money in his reserve account, he's either going to spend it down to zero before the closing. And if you don't know this, but when you spend that money, you can only spend it on the property. So I'm benefiting with this money that he's spending on my property, mine about to become my property. Or if he doesn't want to spend it, he's going to cut a check and hand it to me at closing. So I don't have to come up with another 100,000. Now, folks, if you think that's pushing the envelope with the seller and you don't want to make him mad, folks, remember, you're doing him a big favor, because if you didn't assume his mortgage, you would be able to go out to any bank you want and get a new money purchase mortgage. And how much money do you think you'd have to put down for that reserve replacement on day one with that new mortgage company? Zero. But I'm going with him, so I owe him $100,000? No. Doesn't work that way. That guy should have been using that money every single month on that property to make it better, and he never did. You know, you think you sit there at the closing table, or when you're negotiating, after you do your due diligence, and you look and say, God, this place is going to need $300,000 of work. Yeah, it's because the guy hasn't done a thing on it. So you can try to renegotiate with him after the due diligence, or you tell him, hey, listen, give me that money, and I'm going to go plow it back into the property. So that's why we talk about the capital reserve account in any letter of intent for an assumption. Now, this is the next one, and boy, is it a doozy. All right. Now, listen to this. Whenever you do an assumption, there are 3 people at the closing table. There's you, the buyer, there's the seller, and then there's the bank. And the bank knows that the two of you are under agreement in a purchase and sale contract, but the bank doesn't care. The bank is the only institution I've ever known that doesn't give a ass about contracts. They haven't seen a contract that they'll run roughshod over, change the terms on, or just clear out breach. And inside their document is wording that says that if you're doing an assumption, they use a different wording. I don't have it off the top of my head right now. If you're doing the assumption, it's either an approval or a denial. The bank is not allowed to change any of the economic terms of the mortgage. It says it right there in the contract. So I'm either going to be approved for this mortgage and buy this property, or I'm going to get declined and I'll have to walk away. Sounds good, right? You know what I'm talking about? All right. So this is how a conversation went. Hold on. This is how the conversation went. Mr. Dobbins, congratulations. You've been approved. Thank you, Mr. Banker. I'm looking forward to it. Yes, but I understand the contract that you signed, the purchase and sale contract. You're only putting 12% down on the purchase price. Yes, I negotiated very well. And I was able to negotiate terms and a purchase price that meant I only had to come up with 12% of the purchase price to buy this property. Yes, congratulations. But you're going to have to come up with an additional 8% because we want you to have skin in the game more than 12%. We want all of our borrowers to have skin in the game up to 20% loan to value. Well, that would mean I'd have to increase the purchase price that I negotiated. Yeah, we thought about that and we realized that doesn't work for us either. We want you to work with us. Okay, so, but if an additional 8%, that's $400,000. Yeah, that's right. So how do I'd have to go out and raise the money for $400,000? Yes, you would. Okay, and then what do I do with that money? Where do I put it? Oh, well, we're so glad you asked. We're a bank, and we'll open up an account for you, and you can put the money in that account. Oh, and just one more thing. You're not allowed to touch that account for the whole time that you own the property. So wait a minute. So I have to raise an additional $400,000, which will essentially kill my cash-on-cash return for all my investors, and you want me to put it in your bank at what, like 1 or 2% interest, and I can't touch it? That is correct. Well, okay, now wait a minute here. You're changing you're adding an additional economic term, and you can't do that. You have to either approve me or decline me. Well, Mr. Dobens, I have some bad news for you. What's the bad news? You're declined. Well, no, you just said I was approved. And congratulations, you've been approved. But wait a minute. You're adding additional economic terms. You're not allowed to do that. Mr. Dobens, we're the bank. We do whatever we want. And so they had me by the short hairs because I had about $100,000 hard in earnest money on this deal. And if I didn't close on it, I was going to lose the money. Oh, folks, what a tough night sleeping that was. Well, we ultimately pulled it off and probably should have walked from the deal. It was one of the worst deals I ever did. But I swore I would never be in a position to do that again. And so I crafted this wording right here that says that if the bank comes back later and adds any additional economic terms, the two parties will work together to try to come up with a solution. But if we can't come up with a solution that fits my needs, I get to walk and get all of my money back at any time during the purchase and sale agreement. So it could be the day before closing. And if the bank pulls this crap on me ever again, I get to walk. Okay? That was a very long story on one paragraph. Holy cow. And I think that's about it. So those are the letters of intent. That's how we deal with it. I hope that was helpful to all of you. And this will go down in the annals as the first class of the Multifamily Law School on letters of intent. And if anybody has any other anything that they want me to, a topic they want me to bring up or talk about, I will be more than happy to do that. But otherwise, I will see all of you next week, same time. I will be here enjoying our little conversation. All right, folks, good to see you all, and we'll talk soon.